Welcome, everybody. I'm Kathy Rigling with Orange Audubon Society, and thank you for coming to our monthly educational webinar. And tonight, it's all about the Great Backyard Bird Count. And this is brought to you in part by the Cornell K-12 Education Program, which I encourage you to check out online, and as well as Orange Audubon Society. And our mission is to promote public understanding of and interest in wildlife and the environment that supports it. So the Great Backyard Bird Count is going to be February 16th through 19th, and it's sponsored by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, National Audubon, and Birds Canada. And the Great Backyard Bird Count is a global community science project. So if you participate, your students are participating with students and other people all around the world. So here's to give you an idea from last year. During this 4-day period in February, over 7,538 species of birds were identified, which is 2/3 of the known species of the world. That's pretty good. Over 202 countries participated, 390,000 plus bird lists were submitted, and over 151,000 photos, videos, and sounds were added to the MacCauley Library, which is part of Cornell. Over 55,000 people participated. So why participate in the Great Backyard Bird Count? Well, you want to make sure your local birds are counted. It's a long-term record of birds for scientists, researchers. Scientists can't be everywhere. And it's a great way to involve students in authentic science, and it's very easy to do. So what do researchers learn from these bird counts? They learn about migration patterns, year-to-year bird population changes, and long-term trends. And the Great Backyard Bird Count runs from midnight, February 16th to 11:59 p.m., February 19th. So you can count birds anytime through that time. And as long as it's submitted through eBird or Merlin, which I'm screening, it will count as part of the Great Backyard Bird Count. You don't have to sign up anywhere or anything like that. They've really streamlined this. So you can count birds wherever you'd like. It doesn't have to be in a backyard. It could be a school, it could be a city street, it could be a park, it could be a nature center, it could be an actual eBird hotspot. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But you can count birds wherever you see them. And what do? You count birds for at least 15 minutes. That's the requirement. You can count longer. Do keep track of the time and get a best estimate on how many individuals for each species. So let's say you see a whole bunch of red-winged blackbirds, you try to count them the best you can. The people at the lab understand that we are not scientists, so just do the best you can. I count by tens when I can, and if I think, well, it's at least 100, I'll put 100, and that's okay. So here are some steps to take before starting the Great Backyard Bird Count. Decide on your campus places where birds might be. You can even look ahead and say, oh, I know we see birds here. Definitely look for places that might have food for the birds, whether you have a bird feeding station or you have a bush like this that has seeds or berries on it, or a place where a lot of insects come, or a water source, whether it's a retention pond at your school or it could be a bird bath, and a place for shelter like large trees. That's a good place to look. And then decide on a time. I know you might have time constraints, but if you can count in the morning, that's ideal because birds are much more active in the morning, but there'll be some activity throughout the day. Create a free account on eBird. So like this week would be a good time to kind of play around with it. eBird has been around. It's one of the longest running community science projects. It's very easy to use. I'll go through it a little bit with you tonight. And also, if you go to the eBird website, they even have tutorials on it there, but it's not hard. And don't worry that you're going to do something wrong and mess up data. They'll let you know if something's way off, they'll email you, and it's fine. It happens to everybody.
I know they emailed me last year.
Oh, yes, that's good. And so once you have that free account, you have access to all these other projects, which are really good. Bird Academy has a lot of free stuff on it. The MacCauley Library has a lot of recordings and things like that. So check those things out as well. So here's Merlin. You want to have some way to identify birds. Merlin is very easy and free to use if you want to use, a mobile device. If you don't, that's okay too. You can use a paper field guide there, and you could order one from Amazon and have it, at your home in 2 days. And all these would probably be $12 or less. You don't have to get the most up-to-date ones. The bird names might change, but it's okay. For the generally, bird field guide is going to be good. You don't have to worry about, oh, I'll get a less expensive one. It'll be fine. You can learn to identify your local birds. You might not figure out all of them. That's okay. You count the ones you know. So teach your students some basics of bird ID, which are size, shape, color, and behavior. So first of all, if you see a bird, have them think about, was it really tiny, like a little sparrow? Was it like a cardinal size, a blue jay? Was it in between? Was it crow size? Was it big like a goose? Just get an idea of the size. And think about bird families, well, is it on the side of a tree? Probably woodpecker. If it's soaring up in the sky, it's probably a bird of prey. If you have water near your school, maybe you'll see some ducks. If you're really lucky, maybe you'll have an owl sitting in a tree. Most of us can figure out owls. A lot of the birds you're going to see are songbirds, which are, usually going to be in the bushes and the trees. Some can be drab, some can be colorful, but generally they'll either make some kind of sound or they may sing. This time of year, they're not singing too much. A goose you could tell, and gulls. This is time of year, at least inland Florida, we do get some gulls flying over. Have your students think about what are the main colors they saw when they saw the bird. It's like playing a detective game. And what was the bird doing? It makes a difference whether it was on the ground, it's on a fence, it was flying. And if you use the Merlin app, it actually walks you through these questions, which is kind of cool. That's the fun thing about using Merlin. If you do this, and I did this from something I saw at home, and I put in that I had a small brown bird with gray, and it gave me several options. Some don't look quite the same as others, but this one's here because actually the female is brown. And you can look at them and say, yeah, it looks like this one. And then you can click on it, it'll give you more information. You can you can play the sound to see if it matches. You can look at a map and say, is this bird even supposed to be in this area? If it's not, it's probably not going to be that. And, if it is, you can click, this is my bird. So before you do your bird count, you need to decide whether to use eBird or Merlin to report it. And if you have younger students, I think Merlin is just fine because you can at least put in species that you see at your school. You cannot put numbers with Merlin. It only would do single IDs. And that's okay. If you have younger students, I think that's fine. If you're using Merlin, it's going to say, save with Merlin, and then that bird is listed, at least on your device. You can call your device, you can call your account, your class account. You can do that. But if you want to have a more scientific count, use eBird. If you don't use Merlin, use a field guide. They work fine. So here's an idea, because you have enough time between now and the bird count. You could pick out some local birds and assign each student a local bird to become an expert about. And these are actual projects that some local students did, where they drew the bird and they wrote some facts about it and they got familiar with it. So that on the day of the count, oh my goodness, this child sees this bird and says, that's my bird. And they can tell the whole class, oh, that's a palm warbler, I know that. So that's kind of a neat thing you can do. Here is one way a school set this up. They write the name of their bird, they do a scientific drawing as best they can. They label field marks, meaning like, oh, it has a stripe above the eye. They can listen to the sound and describe it. So that's an idea of something you can do just to get your kids ready. If you want to see what birds are most common in your area and you have Merlin, this is how you do it. Again, this is going to be recorded so you can go back and watch this. You open your Merlin app and there's this Explore Birds, which is over here. And then you can use the slider to hit your local. It'll use GPS to get local and set it for winter. And then it will generate a list like this. These are Central Florida common birds. And you might wonder, what's this bar chart? This shows when they're found. So like palm warblers, they're here until about May, and then they leave for a while. But some of the birds, like the red-winged blackbird, the osprey, they're here all season. So that's just one way to see what to expect if you want to do that. You don't have to. So prior to the count, you're going to decide how to submit your data. Like you can use Merlin, but it's only going to record the species that you're seeing at your school. It's okay. Or you can use eBird, which you can report the actual numbers and types of birds. For both, you need to have an account on the eBird website. So to use Merlin again, you're going to go through that ID where it's going to ask you the questions. And if it comes up and you say, oh yeah, it was a painted bunny, look just like this. You click, this is my bird, and save with Merlin. And then you've recorded that for your school. To use eBird, you have to download the free app and have an account. And eBird Mobile will track your date, time, and location and distance, and you can submit it from your device. So you can also do this on the eBird website. You can keep track of your distance and time and write down your recordings. Like some teachers have their students do a simple on a clipboard, a checklist. But I think to really free your kids up and not have them bogged down with writing stuff down, you want them really just looking, is you or assistant keep a list and have the kids tell you what they're seeing. And that way they're not tied down to having that checklist in their hand, because they'll enjoy it more if they don't have to do that. And then you can do this and up on your computer screen, and you can go through and put the checklist in right there. And you would do it from using the submit button. You can count any bird that's wild. You can't count things like chickens and, domestic ducks and stuff like that. But if you can't identify it, don't count it. It's okay. There's a lot of birds I can't identify, and we just have to let them go. So some etiquette to teach your students, because you are dealing with wild animals. If you're watching a bird and the students get too close and the bird stops what it's doing and it looks stressed, then back away. Of course, they shouldn't be going on private property, anything like that. If there's a nest, and some birds are nesting right now, they should not get too close. Stay, probably 30 feet away and observe from a distance. Don't play bird calls, especially now that birds are nesting. And just remind your students, if everyone keeps their voices low and your movements down to a minimum, then everyone can enjoy the birds that you see. Here's a really cool thing. If you're able to, if you have the mobile or you're doing it with your device, you can pull up on your presenting computer the Great Backyard Bird Count website, and there is a live submission map, and it'll be running the 16th through the 19th, and you can submit your list, and the kids can watch this map, and they'll see a yellow dot wherever you're at light up, and it's powerful because they know, wow, the researchers really did get our information. It's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to give you a quick tutorial about using eBird Mobile. So here's the mobile app again. If you're going to do it, you're going to either click submit or start checklist, whatever shows up on your device. You're going to pick a location. So if you click on this, it will, you can pick on a map where it is. Nearby, you can pick. If you're at a park, you can pick that. And then simply what you're going to do is you can start typing in here where it says add observation, the first few letters of the name of the bird, and it'll pop up instead of scrolling through the whole list. So if you saw, let's say you saw wood duck, if in this little add part, you can start typing WOO and wood duck will pop up. And then you can just click here. You can type in numbers there too. If you downloaded the Merlin app, guess what? As you click in, the Merlin app is right here. If you're not sure you're IDing it correctly, you can click on that and you can pull up a picture of the bird and you can check it that way. You can always go back and change the numbers. Sometimes my fingers slip and it accidentally will put 200 instead of 2. So do check, make sure you got the right number in there. So the easiest way to find a bird is to type the first few letters, once you kind of figure out what it is. Now, if it has an R by its name, it means it's rare for your location, either because it's the time of year and it shouldn't be there, or because it doesn't belong where you're seeing it. Yes, we do get rare birds. These are snow geese. I've seen them in my area. They're not real common here. But if you know for sure you saw it, you can put it in. If you're really confident you saw that rare bird, even if you don't have a photo, and I had a photo of this one, this is called a yellow-breasted chat. And it's not a good photo, but it's identifiable. You can put a photo in, or you can put a description about what you saw. And that way, there is a reviewer that checks all these eBird reports. And if they see a good description, they'll probably not reach out to you. They say, oh yeah, they really saw it. If you didn't put a good description, you might get an email, and it's okay, because everyone gets those emails. That's how we try to keep this scientifically accurate. When you finish, click review. There's a little button here that says review. You can see how many species you saw. Make sure everything's right. If something's wrong, you can delete it. You don't have to send it in. And then once you're ready, it will prompt you if you forgot to put a location. It'll prompt you to do that before you can send it in. And when you're ready, you click submit. And then, like I said, try to have this map pulled up in your classroom and watch it live. And it'll actually have a running number of how many checklists have been submitted for that time period. And it's really, really cool. Kids will be amazed. So if you plan to do multiple counts, maybe of different classes coming in, you have to do different checklists for each class. So they can each submit their own, and you can compare the data later. It's great. It's great math and science work. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to, while I'm waiting for questions. Our next webinar is going to be improving school habitat for nature study, and that one will be on March 13th, 7. And thank you for participating. If you would like a certificate of participation, I can email it to you at education@orangeaudubonfl.org.